Hi good people, Titus here for another Blender tutorial, and in this one we'll tackle creating an AR15 lower receiver. This will be an easy tutorial to follow, but it will be a bit longer, so let's not waste any time and jump right into it. Okay, I'm going to start off working on the magwell portion, so I'll do Shift A, Mesh, and we're going to do a single vertex. It should default you back into edit mode, and you can press G to grab. If you do and it doesn't move or you don't see it, it's probably because you're in edge or face selection, so make sure you're in vertex selection. Then press G. I'm going to line it up at the top here, somewhere around there. Then press E to extrude, X, lock it in the X axis. I'm going to bring it over here, and then E to extrude, and maybe right around there, and then E to extrude again, and then I'm just going to continue extruding all along these edges here. And then I'm going to E to extrude, bring it over this way, and then I'm going to bring it up, locking it in the Z axis. Just like so. And now we have this sort of shape here. Now I'm going to be using a sub D workflow, so I'm going to want to use a grid fill. In order to make that work, I need to have the same number of vertices, which currently at 6, on one side as the other. So currently I have 7 on this side, 6 on this side. I also want to try and keep them even. That way it's easier to control like my shading. So to do that, I'm going to select this vertex, Shift S, do cursor to selected. I'm going to set my pivot point to be the 3D cursor. And then I'm actually going to extrude in the Z axis. And then what I can do is scale Z and 0 it out. And it's going to make it perfectly even with the vertex on the other side. And I'm just going to repeat that. Shift S, cursor to selected, E to extrude, lock it in the Z, then S to scale, Z, and then 0. And then I'll repeat that for each one here. So E to extrude, S, Z, 0. And I think this one lines up pretty good with the one I already have here, so I'm just going to select it, S, Z, 0. And I can double check to make sure that still follows my edge. Looks like it probably doesn't, so I'll do Control Z, and then I'll just E to extrude, and then lock that in the Z, 0 it out, and then I can shift select and fill this one. So now I need to basically line this next vertex up, so the way I can do that is I will actually probably just select this one, and then I can scale Z 0, and that lines up pretty good. And now Shift S, cursor on this side. I need more vertices on this side though. So I can press 2, go to edge mode, select that edge, X, delete that edge. 1 to go back into vertex mode, select this vertice, E to extrude, lock it in the Z, then SZ 0. And then I'm just going to do the same thing that I did on the left side over here. So scale Z 0, Shift S, cursor, select this one, E, S, Z, and then 0. And then I can shift select the bottom one, F to fill. And now if I select these, I have 10 vertices. If I select over here, I have 10. I can go to edge select with 2, select the bottom and top edge, go to face select, and then grid fill. And not only will I get a grid fill, but I also have even edges, which just makes it a little bit easier. I'm going to go to side view. I'm going to bring in the magazine I modeled from an earlier tutorial, and then I'm going to use that to extrude the appropriate thickness. So kind of like that. And I can hide the magazine. Press 3 to go to face mode. Select the top and bottom face. X to delete those faces. And we're doing that so when I do an edge loop, it doesn't edge loop the other side, because there's going to be different elements on one side versus the other. We'll go into vertex mode, and then I'm going to shift select these 2 bottom vertices, E to extrude, lock in the Y, and then I just kind of have that shape there. I'm actually probably, let me see if that looks right. it's a little bit off, so I'm going to actually press Control Z to undo that. I'm going to change my pivot point to be individual origins, and then I'm going to try that again. E to extrude, lock in the Y, and then I'm going to do maybe negative 0.035, somewhere around there. Whatever number you settle on, just make sure you remember it, because you need to extrude in the Y on the other side by the positive amount. So 0.035 instead of negative. That way they're equidistant. Now I can shift select these two vertices, do Shift S, cursor to selected, set my pivot point back to 3D cursor. I can then select this bottom vertex here, Control click so it selects all the bottom over here. And we're gonna do something a little different. We can press E to extrude, right click so it snaps back into place, and then you can press S to scale. For me it's gonna be Shift Y, and then I can just bring it out just a bit so it looks appropriate, and it's going to keep that angle, which is what we need. And then we're going to select this vertice, Control click, so it gets all those there. E to extrude, right click to snap it back, S to scale, Shift Y, and maybe right about there looks pretty good. And then I can come to front view, and then Alt Z. Actually, what I need to do is go to Edge Select, Alt, click this bottom loop. Oh, actually what I should do, let's go to Vertex Select. Let's get rid of some of these extra vertices here. You can turn Auto Merge up here to make this next part easier. So when you select the vertex, you just press GG, and you can edge slide it into that corner so it becomes one vertex. Because we don't really need these extra quads. They're not going to help us anywhere. More geometry, the more work. Alright, then we'll go to Edge Select, Alt, so it selects this entire bottom edge. Go to Front View, G to grab it, lock it in the Z, and I'm just going to bring it down maybe right about there. Control R adds a loop cut there, and I can deselect the side, so I just have the front. Make sure your pivot point is the 3D cursor. And then you can just scale Shift Y and just notch that out. And then we can select the sides, and then Shift S, cursor to selected so it goes in the middle. And then I'm going to go to back view or front view, or one of the side views. Scale in the Y, and just bow it out a bit. So now you kind of have that shape there. Now we can tab into object mode, and we can add a subsurf modifier, Control 2, or you can just add it through the modifier stack, and then right click, shade smooth. And if we tab into edit mode, we can add a loop cut here, right click so it snaps even, Control B, and it'll add a bevel. So you get that, and then we'll do the same thing on this side. Right click snaps back, Control B, and then just add a bevel. Now we have a little bit of a better shape there. The bottom looks a little bit washed out, so what we can do is hold Alt, select that bottom loop here. We're still in our 3D cursor pivot point, so we can press E to extrude, S to scale, and just scale it in just a little bit. Don't have to go too much. And then E to extrude, lock in the Z, and just give it just a small thickness to go up. And then we can scale in the Y. And then you just want to make sure that you don't have any geometry sticking out, but that looks pretty okay. We'll do a Control R, add a loop cut here, bring it down. And now our magwell is starting to take shape. So now we can begin adding some of the accent detail pieces. So first one I'll do is we'll do a Control R. I'm going to do median point for my pivot. I'm going to try to scale X 0. When you do this, make sure sometimes you get like a weird pinch, and if you do, you might have to scale it around the pivot point instead and just do, or edge slide, so it doesn't do that. I'm going to try to get it somewhere around there, I think. And then I'm going to do another one over here. And scale X0. Like right there, you can see it kind of did a little, it kind of bumped it. So if that happens, what you can do instead is go to vertex select. Select one of these vertices, Shift S, cursor, and then you can control click, scale, oops, set the pivot point to 3D cursor, and then scale X0, and you just might have to manually get them basically. And then the ones in the back, it looks like those are okay, it's just maybe these two. Alright, so maybe I'll just GG to edge slide. Edge sliding is really safe, you just have to do it one vertex at a time typically. And then shift select these two. Sometimes you can do it, depends on the axis you're going. Yeah, that looks okay. Alright, so now we got that element lined up. We're gonna need a cut to get this little piece too. So I'll do Control R, and I'll maybe go right in the middle. And then I can do, actually what I'll do is I'll do this one on this side, another Control R, and just do this one on this side. And that looks okay. So let's try to get this one first. So we'll press 3. And I can do I to inset. If it looks like this, you have the boundary on, so just press B, so it takes the boundary off, so it's right at the top. And then you don't need much room, just a little bit of spacing. And you'll press E, extrude it in, and then X, delete those faces, and then you have to select the top face, X, delete, and then you'll get a nice little cutout, kind of like that. And now the next piece, we're going to need to work on this section here. So what we can do is go to edge select. I'm going to hide my little modifier there. I'll go to face select. I'm going to select this one, control click this one, press I to do an inset, just real small. Go to edge select, select there, shift S, cursor to selected, so it's right there. And then back into face select, control select, so you get this grouping here. Actually, sorry, we will deselect the bottom one. And then you will E to extrude. And then with the 3D cursor as your pivot point, S to scale, and the Y to 0. And then you can select this face, delete those, press 1 to go into vertex mode, and we should be able to select this vertex here, shift select the bottom vertex, M to merge, and you can do at first or at last depending on the order that you clicked them. So for me it's going to be last. Now that's one vertex, and shift select M at last, now that's one vertex. And then if you look at your shading, this is kind of what you got now. We need a supporting loop in the middle. So Control R, right click, snaps back, Control B, and somewhere around there. And now you got that sort of shape. So it's starting to come there. Let's go ahead and we need this little cutout first. So we can try giving that a go. The way we can do that is, I think we will select this edge loop. We'll do a Control B. We're going to roll our mouse wheel to give us 3 segments. And it's not going to be perfectly lined up, I think. So I think we'll just do right about there. Yeah, and that'll be fine. And then we'll go to vertex select. And then we're going to select this vertice, GG to edge slide. And we'll select these two vertices, GG to edge slide these back. So you're making some sort of little circular shape. And then I'm going to press C for circle select. And I'm actually going to hide that because we need the full selection here. So you kind of have this little sort of selection here. Now, kind of same as before, we're going to press I to do an inset. And you don't need much. And then once you get that, you can press E, extrude it back, and then X, delete the faces. And we might need some supporting loops here. So come to front view. And yeah, you can see the circle kind of collapses a little bit, and it's holding a little bit better because there's already some edge loops here. So you can just do Control R, add another edge loop over there, Control R, and add another one over there. And for the most part, that should do a pretty okay job. Now for the circle part, I'm looking at a reference image and it looks like there's a weird little pop out thing. That one might be a bit tricky, but we're going to need a little bit more geometry. You're going to need an inset here if you want to make an attempt at it. And let's do, I think we probably need to come from this corner and then kind of come around to this corner. So it's going to be like 3 segments. So maybe GG, slide this one over. And then GG to slide that one over. And then GG, slide that one back. Yes, I think something probably like that. So that's going to be 3 faces. And then we'll want to basically kind of mirror that over here. So GG that one up. And then this one should go up just a bit. And then the faces you would select would be these 3 here, so you kind of get like a circular shape. There's a few ways you can do it. You can do an Alt-S, which will push the entirety of the edge out. And that doesn't look, you know, too bad. Based on the reference image I'm going here, it's kind of, I don't know what that's for, but, you know. Another way you can do it, though, is how we did that one, where you press I, you add a small inset, and then if you do Alt-S, it's a smaller curve, which can sometimes work. Or you can actually press E and extrude it out, and then you'll get a much different shape. So depending on kind of what you're going for, I think maybe with the inset here, it's kind of like that. It's a little bit of a weird shape. I don't know what it's for, but and then if you wanted to tighten up the loops, you can add a Control R. It's a nice thing about working with quads is it's easier for you to add supporting loops wherever you need them, so you get more of a defined shape rather than something washed out. Although I don't know if I care for that, but maybe a Control R down here. Let's see what that looks like. I kind of like the washed out. I think it looks better. But something like that. But all right, I'm going to spend too much time on there. What we need to do now is we need to fill the geometry that we just made, and then we'll work on the backside for the gas system. So what we can do is go to Edge Select, hold Alt, click that inside loop there, Shift D, so you got a duplicate, right click so it snaps back, P, we're going to separate by selection. You can tab in object mode, and then you have to select that. We'll press / to isolate it, and then we'll edit in vertex mode. I think I'll just select these side edges, and then I'm just going to do face grid fill. And if it doesn't grid fill, make sure your top row is, I guess I should probably go into transparency mode. So I have 9 vertices, and I think it should be even. And then 9, so make sure you have the same number of vertices. Sometimes you can get some oddball ones where maybe you're just missing a vertice or 2, and that's why it won't grid fill. I can select everything, press E to extrude it out, and then tab, right click, shade smooth, back into edit, Control R, add a loop cut there, Control R, add a loop cut there, tightens up the geometry a bit. And now if I come back /, that looks pretty good. I want a button though, so what we can do is Alt Z, select these vertices. I'm going to switch my pivot point to be median. S to scale. I'm in my x-axis. I'm going to 0 those out so I get a nice perfectly straight line. I'll add another loop cut, and I'm going to put my button maybe right about there. S to scale, X, 0 that out. And then I need a loop cut in the middle because this is going to be a circular button. And I can go to face select, select these faces here. I'm going to press I to inset my button. And I'm probably going to do right about there. And then we just need to make this a circle. So if you have your loop tools add-on, which is free, I think you just go to loop tools and circle. It'll do it for you. You might have to scale it down a bit. Otherwise you can just, move the vertices around so it looks circular in shape. And it doesn't even have to be perfect, you just get it close to a circle, and the subsurf will take care of the rest. And then you can do an Alt S and actually bring it out this way. Although for me, I think I'm going to do E and extrude it like that. Maybe I'll bring it back just a smidge. And what I'm going to do now is do I for an inset, and then E extrude it in. And then what I can do is use some edge loops here, but I guess before I do that, let's go to face select, and we'll hold Alt, I'm going to select that inside face, and then get this one too, and I want to scale Shift Y, because I want this to be smaller, it's kind of like that, and then Control R, I can add a loop cut here, and then Control R, add a loop cut back there. And then if I want to tighten up that inner ring, I can, Control Z, we'll do a Control R here. And then you sort of have this little shape here. And then we can just grab it and push it in a bit. So it lets the shadows grab a little bit more, kind of like so. And then we need a, what was it, I think it's the bolt carrier catch lever. That's going to go right here. So what we can do is select these edges, Shift S, cursor there, tab back into object. We'll do Shift A, add a cube. We're going to press S to scale, and then S to scale again. It's kind of right there. And I'm going to scale in the Y, somewhere around there, and then scale on the Z. And now if I press N, you can see I have non-uniform scale, so I can press Control A, apply my scale. Now it's uniform. It's going to make it easier when I'm adding bevels and stuff. I'm going to tab into edit mode, /, do a Control R, bring it down, Control B, do a cutout here, Control R, 3 to go to face select. I'm going to select these 3 faces here, X, delete them, Control R, and then Control B, move my mouse wheel up. I'm going to do 3 segments, and I'm going to go press 1, vertex select, select these 2 middle, GG to edge slide, hold Control. I'm going to bump it down by 0.5, so you see right there, 0.5, And then I'm going to shift select these, GG. And I'm going to do 0.3 for that one, like so. I'll go back to face select, shift select these, and I'm going to extrude. I'm going to hold control and then just maybe somewhere around there, looks good. And then I can do a control R. Actually, before I do that, control R, roll the mouse wheel, let's do 3 segments here. Maybe I'll do, yeah, I think 3, we'll do 3. What we can do too is hold Alt, select this inside loop, and then we hold Shift to deselect these 2 pieces here, right click, Loop Tools Bridge, that way that gets filled in. Now with this one, I'm going to select these again, I'm going to scale in the X, hold control, and this is kind of like a little pedal looking thing, hold Alt, scale X, something like that, and then I can hold Alt, Shift select these again. I'm going to press Control B to add a bevel, and I think I'm going to try, I'll make it pretty small, I guess, somewhere around there maybe. Nah, maybe we'll do right there. And then press A, M by distance. You might have some extra vertices there. If not, you're good. I'm also going to do a Control R, add a loop cut in the middle. Go to vertex select, transparency mode with Alt Z, and I can select these vertices, grab in the Z, so it makes it more circular. Grab these and the Z, so we got that sort of shape there. And then 3 for vertex select, and we'll hold Alt. I'm going to select that, and then Shift Alt, and I'm going to alternate. So I have an uneven face, but that's fine. And then you can press E to extrude, S to scale. We want to do Shift Z, so it's only the X and Y. And I'm just going to notch it in, so we have this sort of shape here. And then if you add a subsurf modifier, maybe bump it to 2 or 1, right click, shade smooth. In edit mode, we'll go to edge select, and we're going to add just a bevel to tighten up the corners. So this is, might as well do the back as well, and select there. So you got basically all kind of like the fronts and sides, basically just the sharp edges around the corners, and then just add a really small bevel. You don't need much. Kind of as small as you can get it, and then do a 2 segments. You know what, I missed some selection there, so let me try that again. So you need these right here as well. There we go. And then Control B, just a real small, I'm gonna do 2 segments with a shape of 1, and it should leave you kind of with this shape here. And then I can just scale that in the Z, bring it down a bit, and that doesn't look half bad. Alright, so we got this side pretty well done. There's a screw hole here. I'm actually just going to add a cylinder for that, so we can not worry about that right now. But let's work on the back side. We got to make there's like a little gas system here, so this one's going to be a bit tricky. We're going to need some edge loops. There's also a button back here, so I'm going to add a loop cut here, and I think I'm going to go probably right about there, and then Control R, another loop cut there, and what I need to do is we need to straighten out some of these edges. So I'm going to set my pivot point back to 3D cursor, and I think where I'm going to put the button It's probably right here. So Shift S, cursor to selected. I'm gonna highlight these, scale them in the X to 0. So that just gives me a perfectly straight line. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this loop here. So it just straightens them out. And I'll put the button maybe right around there. But I also need another loop for, because the gas system comes sideways, and then it kind of comes down. If I'm looking at this image right. And it's pretty close to the button, so maybe right around there. But what I need is, I need it to be like a straight loop. So I might have to put it a little bit further away. So I think what I'll do is maybe right there. We'll do Shift S, cursor to selected, and maybe I'll just scale X, 0 these out. And this is going to be where that gas system comes down. And I want this to be the same thickness between these two loops here, so I would say maybe right about there is maybe about right. And I can just Shift S, cursor to selected, select that, control click so it gets that. That's to scale X, 0'd out. And the side loop, I think I can borrow this edge over here. So let's go to face select and see what this looks like. Actually, no, we need one more loop. We need a loop over here. And this one needs to be straight as well. So let's do this. Shift S, cursor, control click, scale X, 0. Because the gas system, it looks flat on one end and it's rounded on all the other ends. From what I can tell anyways, the image doesn't really, isn't too clear, but we'll see. We'll select this face all the way to the back here. And I'm actually gonna go all the way to the back. We'll see how this looks. And then this is the other face it uses. Actually, we need another loop here, by the way, because you need a loop in the middle as well. So let's just go ahead and add that there. I could probably stop it right here, would probably be safer. I'm gonna try to go all the way to the edge. I'm gonna see what it looks like. And we'll select all these faces here. I should probably use circle select for this. It's too late, I'm committed. And then this one kind of goes right around the curve. So maybe I'll select these right there. Let's try an inset. Let's see how this actually looks. Alright. And if I do an Alt S, it kind of brings that sort of shape. But I think I'm going to have to do an extrusion, so I'm going to try E. Yeah, we'll do E. And I'm just going to do a small pronounce, kind of like that. And then what I need to do is go into edge select. I'm going to select that inside edge there. And then shift control to get that edge. And then shift control to get this edge. And then I'm going to grab in the Y. And that's going to give me that circular shape that I'm kind of looking for. I just let the subsurf take care of the rest. And then what I'm going to do is, it looks like this edge is tapered. So I'm going to press GG. And bring this really low like that. And then I'm going to taper these edges as well. Kind of like that. This one looks like it's actually still pronounced, so I'm going to leave that one alone. And this reference image over here, so I'm going to add a loop cut because this is kind of square. And this one's going to be a little bit tricky. So I'm going to go to face select, select these faces here. I'm going to hide my subsurf to make this a little bit easier. Press I to inset, and then I to inset again. And then I'm going to select these vertices here, grab in the Y, And then back to face select, scale shift Y. No, shift X. Oops, sorry. Scale shift X. Let's see. Oh, my pivot point, that's why. Individual origins, scale shift, should be X. There we go. I want to make this pretty small. And then in vertex, I can just bounce this back. And then if I wanted to, you can probably loop tool circle. And then if I align my view, I can press R and rotate this. And that should kind of work. I'll press I to inset. And then we can just press E to extrude. Add our subsurf back on. If your circle's a little messed up, you can fix it a number of ways. Add a loop cut inside and control that. You can bevel it, pretty much all sorts of things. So if you're working with quads, it makes it a little bit easier. But that is more or less the gas system that I can see in my reference, so we'll go with that. Now let's work on the button. The way we'll do it, we'll add a loop cut down the middle, and then we will circle select these. Let's try our loop tools to circle, see what that looks like. I don't like it, so let's undo that. We'll go to vertex select. I'm gonna GG, and I'm just gonna bring it down. Yeah. GG like that. Let's do Shift S, cursor to selected, pivot point 3D cursor. And then I'm going to scale in the X. I'm going to do something like that maybe. And then kind of just like before, we'll do I, do an inset. And we will extrude. This button might be a little bit too small actually. Let me undo that. All right, let's scale Z. Make it like a rupee. Yeah, that looks a little better. Okay, and then I to inset. E to extrude. X, delete those faces. And then what we need to do is go to edge mode, highlight that inside edge, like that. And we can Shift D to duplicate it, right click, P, separate my selection, tab in object mode, select that loop, / to isolate, and then tab back into edit. And I think we can just grid fill. So face, grid fill. Oops, let's not do it like that. Let's do this side, face, grid fill. There we go. And then you can E to extrude, Control R, Control B, and shade smooth. And let's just select this ring here, Control B, and then we will just roll our wheel up. Select everything, M by distance, removes any additional vertices that are in there. 3 to face select, Alt, select that, and just alternate with Shift Alt, building your selection like so. E to extrude, S to scale. Actually, sorry. Control Z, undo that. I'm going to turn auto merge off because it's going to mess me up. Pivot point, individual origins. Let's try that again. E to extrude, S to scale, and then Shift Z. And don't have to go too far, just somewhere around there. And it looks kind of like your button there. Now we can go to edge select, And we can try select sharp edges. Let's try adding a bevel, see if this works. Control B. And I'm gonna do 2 segments. And I think it makes it too blocky because it selects too many edges. So what we will do is manually do it, just Alt and then Shift Alt. Like so. I think when we add the bevel this way, it'll look a little bit better. Alright, and then you can bring your button out, like so. Alright, and we just give it a once over. And just take a look at the magwell, and yeah, I think that's a good starting point. So let's continue through to the next part here.